The sound of the clock's loud chimes snapped me out of my intense focus. I glanced away from my monitor in front of me. The clock had rang midnight. I had just finalized some finished paperwork. The case I had finalized wasn't as exciting as I'd hoped. When it came to my job as an investigator, I preferred something more thrilling, if you could say. "I'm headed out. You fine on your own, Anthony?" I heard a voice say from behind me. I spun my office chair around and found myself being greeted by an officer, his tall, muscular frame leaning against the wall, coffee in hand. I flashed him a tired smile. "Don't worry about me, Dave. I'll be all right." Dave nodded and shut the door behind him. The room returned to silence. I usually left the office pretty late, but not this late. Dave leaving meant that I was the only one in the building. The building was small and didn't have many people working there to begin with, but it was still unsettling at night. Yes, I'm a 26-year-old man who is still afraid of the dark. It didn't help that the light in my office liked to flicker occasionally and make this loud buzzing sound. I really needed to replace it. The thing that had been distracting me from making my way out of the door still displayed on my desktop. It was an internet forum post. Scrolling through these forums was something I did in my free time when I finished my work for the day or, well, sometimes when I hadn't finished my work too. Hence why I'm staying late most nights. And I found something that was instantly catching my attention. "Hello, this is the Destiny Church. We are contacting you to see if you would be interested in taking part of our practices. Click the link below for more information." The post showed a screenshot of a message conversation, with that being the first thing that's sent to the receiver, followed by what was most likely the link. Although, the poster scribbled out in red, along with the church's number. The caption above the screenshot was a frantic poster ranting about the situation. I received this message earlier this week. When I clicked on the link, it brought me to a fairly normal-looking website, showing very little information about this church. After looking at the website for a few more minutes, the number sent me a message telling me my exact address. I closed out of the site and blocked the number directly after. When coming home from work, I've had this dreadful feeling that someone is watching me and following me. I don't know if this is just some internet joke or I'm being paranoid or if something seriously bad is going to happen. Reading that last sentence sent a chill down my spine. I don't know why though. The poster probably was just paranoid. I clicked on that person's profile. Their profile displayed nothing but that post. On the sidebar, it showed they made their account in about 2018. You know, sometimes it does the years and then the months bullshit. But this post was made last week. So I found it odd they hadn't posted anything before that. The comments were nothing out of the ordinary of the internet. Some people were just cracking jokes, a few insensitive, but still receiving copious amounts of likes. It's just some guy with no life on the internet trying to scare you, dude. Or, why would you click some random link that you were sent anyway? You deserve what's coming, were the recurring themes. One comment was a little different from the rest. This shit looks sketchy. Explore at your own risk. That person provided a link. Most likely the link that the original poster wanted to hide for our safety. I mean, it's a public church, so I doubted it'd be hard to find a website. I'm curious as to why this person who posted it just scribbled out the link address anyways. I hovered my mouse over the link. I doubted it was really anything actually dangerous. Over time, I learned never to trust most things on the internet. But I will admit, I was curious. I paused and started thinking about the possible outcomes, but in the end, it could be fun to investigate. I tried not getting involved in the internet investigations because most of them just seemed to turn out too bad. The internet tends to do a lot more harm than good. There were only about 100 views, so I doubted it would become big or anything. I pressed the link. A black screen filled my monitor. I tapped the spacebar multiple times and continuously clicked the mouse, as one usually does when their computer freezes. Nothing happened for a few minutes. I ducked my head under the desk to turn my computer tower off, but was greeted with a much different version of my tower. I jumped up, knocking my office chair to the floor. Underneath my desk was a mess of sparking wires and a strong scent of burning plastic. I nearly tripped while running out of the office in search of the fire extinguisher. There's a first time for everything. Using a fire extinguisher was not a first-timer I expected to experience today. It took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to get the extinguisher and put the fire the hell out that was brewing under my desk. Let's just say my computer no longer looked like a computer, and there was definitely no way it's turning on again. Clicking the link was just a coincidence. It had to be. My computer must have been overheating for a while, and I didn't notice until it caught fire. I dropped the extinguisher and fell to the wood floor, sitting a few feet away from my charred pile of melting parts from my once-to-be computer. I sighed and closed my eyes. I started to think I should have just gone home. It took a few minutes of sitting there and contemplating all of my life decisions before I finally decided to leave. I opened the front doors leading out to the parking lot. My hair was becoming messier as the cold breeze blew through it. People in high school often said that I was tall and thin enough to be knocked over by a slight breeze, which I'm starting to agree with after being so easily knocked over off my feet by the wind. The parking lot was big, similar to like a grocery store's parking lot, although I was the only one still in the building. Parking lot was shared, meaning there was still a few cars left. Dave often checks on me most nights, even though he works in the building next to mine. I started working here fresh out of college, almost 2 years ago at this point. Nobody really took me that seriously. No one ever really does when it comes to people fresh in the field. Dave was the only one who made an effort to get to know me. I really appreciated him. Crickets and the buzzing of the street lamps were the only sounds filling the air. The moon was barely visible through the dark, ominous-looking clouds. I flipped through my keys, searching for the one for my car. A flash of light with a loud alarm startled me. The car I had been passing by started to go off like crazy. After a few seconds of me standing there frozen, it stopped. I bent down to pick up my phone and keys that I had dropped. My phone had a large crack running across the entire screen that definitely wasn't there before. Today really is not my day. I could feel the weight lifting off of my shoulders when I finally returned home. It was 3 a.m. by that time. I just decided to go ahead and get in bed. My apartment was very small, only made for one person. It was hard finding a well-sized, reasonable price place in the middle of the New York City. I tossed and turned in bed for a few hours or so. I couldn't scratch away the thought of getting up and looking into the link again. Look, I'm not one of those people who believes in outrageous conspiracy theories or anything supernatural. I want to convince myself that it was my computer overheating. It's just too odd that this moment that it caught fire was right after I clicked that link. I tore the covers off and jumped to my feet. After grabbing my laptop, I sat at the foot of my bed. I opened my laptop. A picture of me and my mother when I was younger appeared on the front screen. A lump caught in the back of my throat while looking at this bright background. I should really change it. I opened the page and found my way back to the post. A quick copy and paste later, I sent the link to my brother, along with the description of what happened after I clicked it for the first time. Aaron was a smart guy. My brother taught me everything I know when it came to computers and programming, although I'll never be able to do what he does. When we were younger, he'd pirate hundreds of dollars worth of video games without ever even getting close to being caught. He was only 15 at the time, which has always impressed me. When I was 15, I barely knew how to tie my own shoes. I seemed to have been one looking up to him, even though I was older. I haven't really talked to him much since I graduated high school and left immediately after. The last time I saw him was at my mom's funeral months back. I'm still hoping he wants to hear from me. Half my reasoning of emailing him is out of curiosity about the messages and the link, The other half is wanting to get back into contact with him again. I've been too scared to reach out without a good reason. I sat there waiting for a new message for 10 minutes. Aaron was always on his computer, so he should have at least seen it by now. I was about to close my laptop and try falling back asleep until I heard a ping sound. A message reply popped up. You need a dark web browser to even access this website. Could have installed a virus on your computer when you clicked it. I thought I taught you better than this. What are you getting yourself into? Aaron's reply ended there. My eyebrows furrowed, and my mouth was slightly agape. I was confused. What had I gotten myself into? I was surprised to hear myself laugh at that. I guess I found the situation a little funny. I would say always expect the unexpected, but I should have expected this from the start. Tell me how to get to the site. Probably the stupidest thing I could have ever replied with. Aaron and I messaged back and forth for a while. I could tell that he was worried about my safety, which was a little bit relieving, but he knew no matter what he said, I wouldn't listen. I had clearly set my mind to this, and he knew that. After a while, I was able to get onto the site. When I was finally on, it felt anticlimactic, to say the least. It looked like a normal website, like the original poster had described. The page had a simple white background and a few pictures of a church with an ugly green roof, followed by harsh black text displayed throughout. The text wasn't understandable. The words looked like a filler text, not meant to actually be a message. I was starting to get even more suspicious. I began to scroll down the page. After the first page, the rest were blank. I progressively began to scroll faster, but there seemed to not be an end. I zoned out and stared at the white pages flying by. I was getting bored. Then the page changed completely. I reached the end. I don't think end was the right word for it though. It brought me to a whole different tab. The screen was black again, and I felt anxiety instantly peak. Memories of the computer fire earlier started flooding back. The computer didn't catch fire, however. Instead, bright red text began to appear on the screen like a typewriter. The words read, "Why are you here?" Maybe a fire would have been better than this. The text disappeared and replaced with, "Leave." That was the last thing I saw before my laptop shut off completely. To my surprise, it did turn back on. No fire, but the page wasn't there anymore. Nothing was there. My whole laptop had been wiped clean. Maybe I should have listened to Aaron. Pulling into work the next morning felt off. I had to move to a different office down the hall due to mine being in repair. My boss ended up believing the lie that I told them about my office, how it caught on fire. I hadn't told anyone the whole story of what really happened that night. That might have just been my downfall. I continued my work as if it were any other day, because it was any other day. I didn't believe there was any real danger since nothing had presented itself physically. I've gotten myself into all sorts of different dangerous situations in the past. This isn't anything I can't handle. I spent hours straight reviewing and filling out paperwork. Saying it was boring was an understatement. I put on some peaceful music in the background just to drown out some of this unwanted silence. The flood of work stopped when I heard a knock on the door. I looked up and made eye contact with a small lady trying to quietly open the door to my office. I raised an eyebrow. I wasn't expecting any visitors. Hello? The woman stuttered, a frightened expression of her face. I'm Natalia. I greeted her and made a motion for her to sit in the chair in front of my desk. She looked fairly young, probably around my age. Her long blonde hair was set in 2 different braids, resting on each side of her shoulders. A deer in headlights is what her big brown eyes reminded me of. Something had clearly frightened her. After averting her eyes and shuffling into the chair, for a while she spoke. "I'm sorry to interrupt your work. An officer at the police station told me that you'd be the best person to ask to help. Don't worry about it, I wasn't busy anyways. What can I help you with? I tried sounding welcoming. The tears welling up in her eyes made it hard not to. Well, She paused to take a deep breath. My son. He went missing a few months ago. The police concluded it had been a runaway. They won't reopen the case, but I know my boy. I know he wouldn't run away. Can you describe your son for me, ma'am? I flipped a pad of paper over and clicked my pen. A few tears started rolling down her face. His name is Toby. He's only 8 years old. He was always smaller than the other kids his age. I'm sure he's the sweetest boy anyone could ask for. The way she talked about him sounded genuine and sad. I feel I failed as his mother. Detective, please help me find my boy. I questioned the mother a while longer. A feeling of grief lingered over our conversation as we talked about her son. I had only a photo of him to go off of. His smile was bright as his eyes. His neat brown hair gelled back and his school uniform popped with white and green. I thought it would be very difficult to find him with only a photo and already a few months of him being missing. Well, that was until his mom spoke again. There was always this one place in the woods that he loved playing at. I've been checking it every day hoping that he'd go there, but he never has. A sorrowful smile crowded her features. She took her phone and showed me a picture of him at the place. Toby was sitting on a log, smiling in front of a building, an oddly familiar building. I grabbed the phone from her hands, leaving her shocked in an expression. My mouth hung open as I stared in disbelief. Unbelievable. Behind the boy was a church with an ugly green roof. I found myself walking into the forest the next day. I walked deeper into the wooded area, progressively getting farther from my car. The sun was just starting to set, so I had to do this fast. For the next few minutes, I followed the directions Natalia had written down for me until I reached it. Before me was an infamous church. The green roof looked slightly better in person, but still pretty ugly. I walked around the perimeter of the building to inspect anything I could. No sign of the boy. I was avoiding walking into that actual church. An ominous aura was radiating off the building. I had a very bad feeling about this. The boards creaked loudly with each step I took. I paused at the entrance of this church to take in my surroundings. It looked very old and run down. The white paint was chipping off of the wooden walls. Benches sat in rows along the sides of the church. There were a few holes in the roof, those being the only light source in there. As my eyes roamed around, they quickly stopped when they saw a flat, white object resting next to one of the benches at the front. I cautiously approached it. My shoes splashed through the puddles on the floor of the church, most likely the rain that was left by it due to the day prior. The closer I got, the more apparent it became that it was a piece of paper. I bent down to pick it up. It was folded in half, the front reading, "To Anthony Breer." My heart dropped when I saw my name written across a random piece of paper located in a church in the middle of the fucking woods. A whimpering sound from in front of the bench caused me to drop the paper. "What the?" I said aloud as I leaned forward to inspect the bench. On it was a small boy in a school uniform. It was Toby. I frantically crawled in front of the bench to assist the boy. His once white shirt was soaked with red. Oh my God, what happened? Toby! Toby, can you hear me? Stay with me, okay? I took off my black hoodie I had been wearing and used it to soak up some of the blood. "I don't want to die," Toby whimpered, trying to save what little breath he had left. "You're not gonna die, okay? I'll get you some help, just stay there." I sprung up from the wooden floor and sprinted outside. I swung my head to the left and right in search of a person. My phone was still being repaired, so I had to find someone who had one. Tears started to build up in my eyes from this overwhelming situation I found myself in. My focus shifted over to a person. Thank fucking God. My relieved expression dropped completely when I noticed it was a group of people. Not a singular face could be seen. Dark cloaks were worn amongst these figures, and hoods covered their faces. What the hell? I backed away from the group, making my way inside of the church again. I ran over to Toby. Toby! His eyes were closed. I shook his shoulder in hopes to wake him up. Toby, please, you have to wake up, buddy. We need to get home. Your mother is worried sick. My efforts were useless. He was gone. I sat there in silence for a moment, trying to process what had happened. I remembered the paper that was still on the floor. I inched my hand over to the paper that was now stained in blood. Unfolding the paper, the page had neat cursive handwriting across the inside. You killed him. This is your fault. You shouldn't have been nosy and gone on our website. It's not meant for you. You'll make perfect cover-up though, won't you? I stared at the words for a few moments, trying to keep my emotions under control. I can't do this. This isn't real. Suddenly, the door swung open and police started flooding the room with their guns drawn. Police, get up and put your hands behind your head, one of the officers yelled. You're under arrest for the murder of Toby Eatson. I got up slowly and did as they said. This all felt like a dream. Just this morning, I was going about my day at work, and now the police are pinning me to the ground and handcuffing me. Everything looked like it was going in slow motion. I looked over at the paper. The paper would help me get out of this, right? Smoke. Outside of the window was one of the hooded figures with a lit match emitting smoke. The police had their backs to the window, so I was the only one who saw. As I tried to warn them, one of the officers put his hands over my mouth to stop me from speaking. The person in the window took their hood off and revealed their face. My eyes went wide, and my jaw would have dropped if it weren't for the man that was keeping it shut. Toby's mother smiled at me before throwing the match through the window. I had been lied to. They used me. It wasn't water. The puddles were actually gasoline. Flames spread through the entire building in an instant. The officers noticed and dragged me out as quick as possible. I watched the fire cover the church. Toby's body was still inside. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. I wanted to scream. The officers didn't even care to keep this boy's body from burning. I would have rather them left me there to die than let his innocent little child burn. The officers were too focused on getting away from the fire to notice that the people in the hoods flee into the forest. The officers guided me and shoved me inside their cop car. I took a deep breath and tried to think of a way I could prove my innocence. The blood was still on my hands after all. If this is some sort of weird cult operating on the dark web, this could be a pain in the ass to get out of. Anthony. A man's voice came from the front seat. Dave, I whispered. Dave's stunned expression turned into a frown. His eyes looked different. He stared at me in pure disgust and confusion. The only guy who talked to me and made me feel actually useful was convinced I had murdered an 8-year-old boy in cold blood. The car engine started, and Dave didn't speak another word to me. I turned my head to look out of the car window. I sat watching as that burning church got farther and farther behind us. The image of Toby's bloody face couldn't leave my mind. The way he gripped onto me in his last dying moments. I wanted to help this boy, and what I thought was his mother. But now, everyone thinks I'm responsible for his death. Would Toby still have died if I hadn't clicked on that link? I'm sitting awaiting trial now. How am I supposed to get out of this? thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did and you would like to see more of these, make sure to like, comment, and if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. I've got a lot more of these, so if you like the dark web and creepypasta and like cultist type of stuff, make sure to let me know down in the comments. Make sure to comment that you actually want stuff like that. So please do. But with that being said, make sure to check out the links in the description as well, like Twitter, Instagram, everything like that, including my Gmail if you would like to submit a story. But with that being said, stay safe, stay scary, and I'll see you in the next one.